After initiating a tariff war against Canada, Mexico and China, US President Donald Trump has spoken to Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Trump posted about this crucial development on Truth Social, saying that he will speak to Trudeau again. In a parallel development, Canada's province Ontario has banned US firms from government contracts and has also withdrawn from a deal with Elon Musk's Starlink. Canada, Mexico and China are in Trump's crosshairs, with a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on Chinese goods.
That have to balance out their trade, number one. That's got to stop people from pouring into our country, and we've stopped it. They haven't stopped it. We've stopped it. They have to stop people from pouring in, and we have to stop fentanyl, and that includes China. Fentanyl has killed, this year, at least 200,000 people. It's pouring in from China through Mexico and Canada, and they've got to stop it. And if they don't stop it, the tariffs are going to get worse, a lot worse.
Trudeau had earlier announced 25% tariffs on U.S. goods. He expressed disappointment over the strained ties with the U.S.
President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States. The better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us, unfortunately. The actions taken today by the White House split us apart instead of bringing us together.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says that the U.S. is shooting itself in the foot. She pledged counter tariffs ranging from 5 to 20% on various U.S. products.
I responded to the government of the United States. I told them clearly that we can collaborate and cooperate because it's important to cooperate and collaborate between nations, but never with interference, with them wanting to tell us how to do things, but with collaboration for that reason. I say coordination, yes. Subordination, no.
Coordinación sí, subordinación no.
China has announced it will file a legal complaint against the U.S. at the World Trade Organization, arguing that the new tariffs violate international trade rules. Economists warn that these developments could trigger inflation, slow economic growth, and hurt American workers. Prices of cars, electronics, and daily essentials may skyrocket in the U.S. as companies pass on the costs to consumers. Economists say the move will drive up interest rates and could lead to stagflation, a weak economy with rising prices. Now, a key problem in the U.S. is near full employment. Even if tariffs were to boost manufacturing, experts warned there may not be enough workers to fill new jobs, especially as immigration crackdowns continue. Well, as the tariff war gains momentum, Europe is bracing for impact. Attending a defense meeting which has been overshadowed by Trump's decisions, European Union leaders are mulling their next move. Watch.
Both the US and Europe benefit from the exchange of goods and services. If customs policy makes this difficult, then that would be bad for the US and bad for Europe. It is clear that as a strong economic area, we can shape our own things and can also respond to customs policies with customs policies.
We have to, during our possible talks with the American friends, I think we cannot lose, of course, common sense. We cannot lose the awareness of our interests, but at the same time, we cannot lose our European self-respect.
If we are attacked in terms of trade, Europe, as a true power, will have to stand up for itself and therefore react. Now this is an action plan, but actually how to do it by deciding it.
Elizabeth Lores is the President, E. Lores Consulting and Professor Emerita, University of Mary Washington. Professor Lores is joining us live now. Good to see you, Professor. I know we had agreed to talk about Trump's new weapon of choice, which is tariffs, but let's lay the facts bare here. Trump is saying that the reason why he's imposing these tariffs is because America has a huge trade deficit and he doesn't want to hurt Americans. What he wants to do is ease the burden and try and bridge the gap. Do you think or do you believe in what the president is doing right now?
Well, that is a bit of a new twist. Of course, he's talked about trade imbalances with China and some other Asian countries before. The way he presented this initially, of course, to the American public was that he wanted Canada and Mexico to cut down on the flow of illegal aliens and the flow of fentanyl into the country. Regarding the, as you just mentioned, closing a trade gap, that needed to be considered when NAFTA was re-signed and renegotiated as the USMCA. So what he's really doing is he ran on a promise of lowering, these or closing, I guess, a trade gap is the best way to put it, but also decreasing the flow of illegal aliens and fentanyl into the U.S. And he's got the political capital to do it now. He's got about 2 years before the midterm elections. And so now he's come out of the gates really hard and fast because this is the time that he has to do that.
Professor Lawrence, do you think Trump is using this tariffs tag as a bargaining chip? I know he did say that he doesn't want to change his mind and he's not going to change his mind, but do you think he's giving room for negotiations at a later date?
I know a lot of people have labeled him as transactional. I believe in this case, it is carrying out his campaign promises. Remember, some 77 million people voted for him. He won the popular election. And so there is a lot of support for him. And how many times in America and other countries have we heard people say, oh, these politicians, they run on promises, and then once they're in office, they never carry through. Well, you know what? He's carrying through. And it might be painful in regards of prices, at least initially. And I suspect what is going to happen is all those members of Congress who are up for re-election in 2026 are going to get hounded by lobbyists and business, and they're going to try and put pressure on President Trump to relieve some of these tariffs before 2026.
Professor Lawrence, let's talk about Canada and Mexico, what they've done, because there are so many critics who say that Canada's move is reactionary and it's not that great. Do you think Canada is justified to have done what it did by imposing a counter tariff of 25% and actually going on further to target $155 billion worth of goods from the U.S.?
Yes, and also ending the Starlink contract, at least, or suspending it.
That's
certainly,
right.
Yeah, certainly a leader of a nation needs to at least present the image that they are reacting, right? He cannot just sit down and swallow this bitter pill. That is not going to go over with the Canadian public. And so what leverage does Canada have? It can impose counter tariffs, which are going to be expensive all around, or it can impose non-tariff barriers, which is usually quotas or some agreement on voluntary restraints on imports. And so there's not a lot of recourse that countries can do. I understand that President Trump is speaking with Trudeau at 3 o'clock today. I believe that's U.S. time. And so, these tariffs don't come into effect until, a few hours from now. And so maybe there's still some wiggle room here.
All right. Professor Elizabeth Lawrence, there's a lot to talk about, but unfortunately we are out of time, and it's good to see you. Thank you very much for your insights today.
You're welcome.